Good Friday afternoon, evening.
Good. Good Friday.
It's always a good Friday until I have to go back to the office. And then it's still a good Friday, no matter what.
I don't think
Hopefully,
that I will be returning to the office ever again, so it will be Good Friday for me in that case forever. Is that what you're
yes.
saying?
Well, yeah, but let me rephrase it going back to work after we're finished. But normally for you, you go back to work too, even though it's late your time.
Yep.
Uh, and for people that don't know who we are, should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah, let's do it. Why
Let's do
not?
it. So, my name is Darren. This person right over here is Victor, and we are the host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Fridays, we do this live show called DevOps Paradox Live. Yeah, look, we're not marketing people. We do real work. Oh wait, did I say that out loud? I actually am a marketer, which is even more scary now. So we do this live show usually around this time every Friday, and we talk about the things of the week, whether that's things we've dealt with or things we've seen other people deal with, or we talk about the podcast. We just do whatever it is. And people that are here with us live get the chance to do what you see right here and say hello live with us. So if you're here with us live, thanks for showing up live with us today. If you're watching the replay, join us live. You can always check us out. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. We'll talk about all that later. Okay, so this week's podcast, we actually got some replies about this over in our Slack workspace. What are supply or software supply? You know what? I forgot. Also, when you show up live here, bring a drink. Do you have your drink? You have your water still, I guess.
Water still, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm becoming a boring person.
that's good. Well, this is water as well. But it's orange, and it's orange and fizzy. So there we go. Okay, so this week's podcast was about software supply chain attacks. And we go through what is a software supply chain. We talk about a few of the attacks that have popped up. And actually today I saw something that Google is getting behind, which we need to talk more about over the next coming weeks. But supply chain attacks are a thing. You would think that you could just trust anything you pull from, Maven Central or NPM or Docker Hub. You can always trust everything you pull from there, right?
Yeah, until you don't.
Until you don't. Which actually, the till you don't should be immediate, by the way. Should be. But in case you work in security or even in software development, this is getting a lot more coverage now because some people got burned. This isn't somebody got mad and deleted left pad from the NPM registry. This is like bigger issues. And this episode, not necessarily unlike others, but this one specifically, we added a lot of links to this episode that you may want to just take a look through and understand what's going on in this space. So that was this past week's. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to listen to the podcast, you can get it anywhere you listen to podcast. DevOps Paradox, and it comes out on Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Eastern is the normal schedule. All right, let's get into the news. I'll just put it this way. This is sort of not really news. You might be saying, okay, why didn't you bring up this thing about Nihilus raising 120 million in C? Well, back in
Wait,
episode
did
81,
we?
we did. Christine was on in episode 81, and now this is the third company. Count it. 1, 2, 3. Third company that has either been acquired or has gotten a big round in the past couple of months. First off, we had Vamp with Olaf. A couple of weeks ago was Commodore, ETL. Was that last week? Maybe even. And now we have Nihilus. So,
And that's three among those that we happen to find out or follow, right? God
yeah,
knows how many more.
exactly. So what I am going to say is if you want to get a new round or you just want to be sold, then you need to come on the podcast as a guest. And that's the reason why that is not the reason. By the way, FTC, if you're watching, we're not proposing that. Look, that's a joke, by the way, people. Get a life. But congratulations to the people at Nihilus. That's a very good thing for them. So, and actually, this was an interesting thing too. Looking at who all went in on it, the Collison brothers. Patrick and John both got in on it. If you've not followed the Collisons at all, you should. That's all I'll say about that. But it was a pretty big set of people in and big names. So if you don't know what Nihilus does,
Congrats.
it's a good thing. So anyway, there is Nihilus. Okay. So did we market Knative wrong? This is an opinion piece by Amit. Amit works for Google, but this is not a Google op-ed. This is Amit's opinion. So I really want to get him on at some point.
There is a typo in the title. It should be, we marketed Knative wrong. I'm not sure whether it's his English skills or...
It should be a statement. In other words, you're stating that it should be a statement and not a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, especially before Tecton, before separation of Knative build with Tecton, kind of like nobody knew what the heck that is, right? Kind of like really different concepts bundled together and so on and so forth. Now it's a bit clearer, but I was also wondering the same thing the other day because Knative is absolutely fantastic and amazing and everybody should use it. And yet it did not really get penetration or the adoption that it deserves. So, yeah, something went wrong there.
Now, why do you think it went wrong?
Because if you have absolutely fantastic project backed by huge companies with that we trust or we don't, and that depends on the definition, right? And it's not having amazingly high penetration or adoption, then there's something wrong.
Right. So, and if you don't know what Knative is, if you haven't been around, Knative is...
Though if you don't know what Knative is, then that proves the point of this title, right?
Yes. But for the people that don't know and should, what is Knative?
Serverless applications in Kubernetes. That would be a very short description. Or scale to zero type of application, easier scaling type for applications, and so on and so forth. Right. Call it serverless.
Yep. Serverless not as in functions, but serverless as in serverless.
Yeah, you don't think much about them type of applications.
Exactly. In fact, so if you're not familiar with it, Google Cloud Run is Knative with probably some extra Google things on it, I would have to imagine. Right?
Yeah.
Just to be realistic.
Extra things is their hardware.
Yeah. It's pretty close, right? So it's...
Yeah.
So anyway, if you're wondering, was Knative marketed incorrectly? Yeah, probably. But this is a good piece, though. Walking through and understanding at least where somebody's opinion, where it went wrong. But it's okay. Maybe they didn't really mess up on Kubernetes, did they? Or did they?
I mean, they didn't, but I'm not sure how much that was. It's a bit different situation because Kubernetes was very quickly adopted by many software vendors. So it's not really marketing from Google, but marketing, from half of the industry.
Right. So anyway, that is a very interesting opinion piece. And by the way, if you still don't know who Amit is, and we've talked about him before, he's also the guy that created KubeNS and kubectx.
An awesome guy.
We've got to try to get him on. He may be locked up under rulings from his employer, but I'd still like to get him on one day.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking a little bit more about Google. Next Tuesday, they're going to be doing free training on GKE. They being Google. Actually, Kaslan, I guess, is how the name is said. On the 22nd, Google Cloud will offer a no-cost half-day training, cloud onboard, getting started with Google, easy for me to say, Kubernetes engine, and going through 4 main sections: introduction to building with Kubernetes, create and configure clusters, deploy and scale, and securing as well. So here's the 4 big ones. And I believe one of these, they were talking specifically about, what's their new feature?
Autopilot.
Autopilot. I can't remember which section. Autopilot's here is how to create.
Yep.
So
nice.
if you're wanting to learn GKE at least in a half a day, why not go learn it from the people who actually do it? And it's no cost. In case you don't understand what no cost means, that means free. So, and if you're watching this after the 22nd, I don't know what they're doing here. I haven't done this. Let's do this. Let's see. You can register. It's from noon until 4:45 Eastern. So it starts in 3 days. There's the whole flow. Separate sections. Looks like they're roughly 45-minute sessions. Wow. That's impressive.
It's like a mini conference rather than really, because those are different people involved, different potentially subjects. So it's kind of like GKE summit in a way.
Yep. Well, it looks like Caslin is actually doing all the work, and then they have Magda doing the mindful breaks.
Okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
Then it is training.
Yeah, it is training. Okay. So anyway, go check it out. Here, let's see. Nope, that's not clickable. I was trying to see if there was something else we could take a look at, but doesn't look like it. Okay. So from Google to Linode.
From small
from big to small. Now, this is interesting because you may be asking, why are you talking about Linode? It's a good question. I was asking myself that too. So I was reading this post. Actually, I received an email, and then I went over to look at the post. And here's all the things that we've done. Good on you, Linode. Mm-hmm. But then I get into, we're also excited for what we have coming up. Notice this one little thing here.
Nice. I mean, a bit late, to be honest, but nice.
That's the only thing that really jumped out at me. There's probably more things coming, but from what we typically talk about. Now, I haven't found any other press other than this one bullet point. So I'm waiting to see what this means for real. Because does that mean auto-scaling within the data center? Does that mean auto-scaling across? Are they actually building regional type clusters?
Yeah, I'm also curious to see what it means. I doubt that they will build regional clusters, at least maybe in one region, but kind of that takes more time. And it's ultimately something that will be invisible to users. It's not that you're going to see that scaling of control plane. You don't see control plane in Linode, right? It's managed by them. So it must be some kind of assurance,
Yeah.
Maybe they heard me complaining that Linode is not HA. That must be the case.
Yeah, it all goes back to you. Now, when you compared Linode and DigitalOcean, were they both about the same amount of start time? Do you remember?
No, Linode is faster than DigitalOcean, but those are already such fast times. And also, kind of like Linode is a bit cheating because, when you create a cluster in DigitalOcean, it shows you that the process is finished, let's say with Terraform, when everything is up and running. While Linode shows you that it's finished when the VMs kind of started. So after you finish the process, you still need to wait for a while until everything is really up and running, right? But hey, we are now talking about anything below 5 minutes, and both are more or less on that mark is fast enough for me.
Yes, because you will not get a Kubernetes cluster in the big three in under 5 minutes.
No, no. Google is close to that, I think.
Getting close. Well, and AWS has recently come out with some stuff that's speeding things up as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Just fixing it, keeping on going. So anyway, Linode, we're waiting with bated breath to find out what this really means. So we'll see. Hopefully sooner than later. Okay. Grafana did an interesting purchase. If you don't know who K6 is, they are an open source team for doing load testing. I've used K6 for some of my internal stuff. I think K6 does a, so if you're used to using Gatlin or Gatling, if you want to do that, or whatever, they've got a pretty good client logo set here, but it's a really nice and easy way to do load testing, and you can pay for it and get distributed load testing. But Grafana bought them. And I saw this yesterday and I was going, okay, why? And it really is summed up in this last sentence of the first paragraph. Grafana Labs, by getting K6, Grafana Labs adds extensible testing to its open and composable Grafana observability stack. So it's not that we're just monitoring, we're actually really doing testing as well.
Yeah.
This is the first time.
Ultimately, so go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Ultimately, load testing is all about watching at the results later. So it is metrics at the end of the day, right? It's kind of very different from other types of testing. Normally, if you have unit tests, functional tests, this and that, it should be not it is, but it should be binary, pass or fail. Load testing is more really looking at the data afterwards. It's rarely fully automated, kind of binary, pass or fail. So in that case, it makes sense because then you can connect it probably. I'm guessing that they will connect it with Grafana and join the metrics from load testing with other stuff and things like that. It's kind of connected. Maybe not a direct connection though.
Right. I'm just interested here as they get into this part here. It's less costly to run test simulations now just because compute's available. But by putting them together, okay, the typical buzzwords, time to prevent, detect, and remediate. Well, up to this point, Grafana's just monitoring basic data points. But unless you have the system under load, you don't know if it's good or bad. And now if you can inject actual real load even on top of a live production system to see where maybe you can push the edge a little bit more so when you do get real live traffic, you have more confidence in your systems.
Oh yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, load testing is all about simulation of potential production later on, right?
It
so
should
potentially
be, yes.
the metrics should be also the same, right? If you care about X, Y, Z in production, that's what you should be caring about when you look at the metrics from load testing.
Right. So, congratulations to the K6 people. They have not been on the podcast, so we can't take the what's the word I'm looking for? We can't take the credit for that. But
I like the sentence in the last paragraph. It's a bold statement. No, not last, but Grafana Labs is the unquestioned leader in the observability space. That's a bold statement.
Who said it? Oh, K6. The K6 CEO said it.
Yep. But they're excellent. I mean, they're my first choice for self-managed, but I wouldn't go that far.
Okay. The tool front has been pretty silent over the past few weeks. We haven't seen a whole lot of tooling.
Tool front?
Meaning, like normally
K6
we were getting
is a tool.
No, I know. But usually when we get to this part of the show, we usually have a list of here's a bunch of new tools that we've seen. right? Or
Okay.
big updates, right? There haven't been a lot of big tool releases or even new tool releases coming out. I think a lot of people started vacations in May just because they didn't get to have a vacation last year. So now they're taking vacations probably. So instead of just taking August off, I think everybody in Europe is taking from May through August off, or maybe May through
No.
October off.
Yeah, starting from last year.
Yeah. So anyway, so there was this one that I did see today, and it's called Data Bunker. And this is pretty interesting, mainly from securing, so it's a secure and encrypted vault for customer records built to comply with GDPR. I will probably go ahead and add in, and I'm not speaking for them, probably CCPA, which is California. Also, Virginia has very similar CCPA rules. This looks wonderful and miserable all at the same time. As a developer,
Why miserable?
Why miserable? Because as a developer, let's get to the picture here real quick. I not only have a regular database I'm interacting with, but I also now have this bunker that I have to deal with in order to get data. Right? So let's get to the real picture here. This is the picture that I like. So old style, I got two tables. I have a user table and an orders table. And I have a surrogate key mapping back the user ID back to the user table. But all of the user information is just out here raw in the table. Sort of what you expect. We've been doing this for literally decades. But here's how, if we do a select star on the backend SQL, so we'll do a select star on the orders, it will also return all of the encrypted data, but you can only get the personal data by fetching through the Data Bunker API after passing, and this is what sort of is the miserable word that I used, after passing numerous security checks.
Okay, that doesn't sound right. I thought that it would be something transparent, that basically I don't even know that it exists.
It doesn't appear so. So there is, this is open source, so it'll be interesting to see what to do with it. They have a bunch of use cases here, but it's, I like it from a security perspective without having done anything with it. But at the same time, it's like, as a developer, I don't like it.
You know, I like any security initiative as long as I don't need to increase my, yeah, I mean, exactly, do anything.
Now, this one thing is interesting as well. If you'll notice on the old side here, they're just using probably auto increment, right? No, that's what most of us use anyway when we're doing these kinds of things. But over here, they're using GUIDs for the, so instead of it being a user ID, it's a user token. And I like that better anyway. Because with a user token, you're not going to have a problem with running out of int or big int or some other ID thing. And I have a feeling they're probably using this GUID as, there's probably something else that the GUID is being used for.
So what, I don't get it. What does it do at the end of the day? Just change this ID for user token.
Yeah. So instead of user ID being numeric, it's now a string. So there's got to be a reason that's true. There's got to be a reason why they're doing that, but I don't know what it is. I actually prefer that to numbers.
Yeah, my bad. I kind of initially thought and kind of like I had a different picture when I didn't go through the product, right? Yeah. But my picture would be rather that it will somehow tokenize, randomize things, because I really do not necessarily need to know that the name is John and that that's his email.
Right.
Right? I thought that's what it would do. I mean, changing ID for a token.
Whatever. Well, again, and I like their subtitle, which is really hard to see. Let's see, I don't know if they have it up top. They don't. But if you look underneath the picture here, Data Bunker, Paranoid Data Privacy. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So if you're having to deal with data, this might be something to at least take a look at. So There you go. Databunker.org. You can go take a look at it. Also on GitHub, which I did that. They're under MIT. No releases published yet. 2 contributors. Go, JavaScript, blah, blah, blah. And there's the storage. So there's actually more data over here as well.
Yeah, I'm guessing no releases published means that they don't use GitHub to publish releases. I hope that that's the case.
I would, let's see here. Can we, whoops. And they have a pro version as well. I was just trying to see, let's look at the API real quick. Oh, Postman. I don't know. Get user by. Oh, that's very interesting. So this is a very specific use case around users. Interesting. I had not looked at this on the legal basis as well. Wow. They've thought about this. That's pretty cool. All right. So anyway, get started. Let's see what get started is. Personal data leaks, blah, blah, blah. Installation guide. Thank you very much, finally. As a simple Docker container with minimal parameters and minimal requirements. It'll use an internal SQLite database to store. Not recommended for production use. Okay, so at least you can try it out.
Nice.
All the way through it. There you go. Took a little while to find it, but there it is. Installation guide. Okay. Data bunker, and let's get here. Kyverno.
It's like, policies, the least exciting topic anybody can ever come up with, right? But it's important, and it's growing up on me compared to OPA, right? I'm still on the fence between the two, but it's growing up on me, I must say.
Why are you on the fence right now versus OPA?
I like the simplicity of Kyverno. I like that it's more closer to Kubernetes and how Kubernetes does things, right? So that's absolutely fantastic. And then it's basically a solution designed from ground up to be Kubernetes policies. OPA and Gatekeeper, actually OPA was designed long before Kubernetes. It's been around for a while, right? And it doesn't really, it's more like kind of something not designed for Kubernetes put inside of Kubernetes, which is not necessarily bad. But when you're focused on Kubernetes policies, then something so close to Kubernetes, then it might be a bit problematic. And the Kyverno has some nice things, like you can do audit instead of only enforcing rules, which might be a good. I think that ultimately everybody should go towards enforcement. But initially, if you already have a cluster, you probably want to go with audit, and that's very nice. And it's defined as YAML, which OPA has Rego. I mean, I cannot express how my dislike for Rego. It's horrible. The only problem is that sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes I cannot do things through YAML. But for all the times when I can do things through YAML, compared to Rego, I choose YAML, and that would make Kyverno more interesting.
So we know that policy management is important. There's the 2 basics. Is there a third right now? Or is it really those 2?
Those 2 mostly. I mean, there must be others, right? But those 2 are kind of the popular ones now.
Right. If you're managing how do I say this? If you're managing a Kubernetes cluster and you're not doing policy management, where should you start?
No, let me rephrase. If you're managing Kubernetes cluster and you're not doing policy management and you give access to others to do something inside of that cluster, that last part is important, right? Because you don't need policies if you're the only one using that cluster. Kind of like that would be to tell yourself, don't do this. If you know that you shouldn't do that, you don't do it. But anyways, so yeah, if you want to enable others to use the cluster without making some terrible mistakes, then yeah, Kyverno I would start, to be honest, for a newbie, I would recommend starting with Kyverno, and then if you figure out that it doesn't do everything, it doesn't do more than 90% of what you need it to do, it will never do 100. then you might want to consider alternatives.
So is Kyverno just an implementation of OPA?
No, Kyverno nothing to do with OPA. So
Nothing to do with OPA. Okay.
Gatekeeper is an implementation of OPA, right?
Okay. Right.
And Gatekeeper is absolutely fantastic, just as good or better than Kyverno when you use the policies that were already defined by the community, right? Hey, I want this policy, copy paste, use that resource, excellent. The problem comes when you need to define your own policies, and then kind of the real question is: do you want to learn Rego, which is a language for defining policies, in OPA or Gatekeeper, or you want to go with familiar YAML, right? There are pros and cons. YAML might not get you 100% where you need to be, but on the other hand, Rego is painful.
What is the one policy, no matter which tool you pick, what is the one policy that should be implemented in a cluster that's you're having to share with other people?
The maximum amount of resources.
Okay. That should be your number one.
Yeah.
Period.
Number of pods, amount of memory, CPU, that stuff, right? Now I'm not sure whether that falls into one or a couple of them, but yeah, because you don't want to, because ultimately, if Kubernetes cannot handle the load, it will start kicking things, applications, pods out, right? And then you might be the one that actually causes Kubernetes to kick somebody else's pods out.
But that shouldn't be a problem, right? Because it's Kubernetes, it's completely unlimited.
It still takes time until that number increases, and it really depends on how fast. Like, for example, if you use cluster autoscaler, right? In most cases, it will handle gracefully that kind of increase in resources. But if all of a sudden I just say apply this deployment that will actually double the capacity. It will not immediately double the capacity of the cluster. It will gradually be increasing, and during that time, applications will be suffering.
That was a joke, by the way. I'm leaning back on a fixed size cluster, much like you would have with VMware. All I have are these resources.
You're full of surprises today. You tell jokes?
I try. No, but you think about it, this was the same argument that was had. It's like, oh, we now, instead of bare metal, we have VMs. And now we can run as many VMs as we want. Well, to an extent, that is true. But you still have true physical resources that you have to live within.
Yes, and theoretically, cloud is unlimited for most of us, kind of like, not for everybody, right? Kind of, if you're talking about being really, really huge, then cloud is not unlimited. But for majority of companies, cloud is unlimited or close to being unlimited, right? Now, the question is still, okay, so yes, you scale from 10 nodes to all of a sudden to 100 nodes. If no, for no other reason, do you want to be the person who is blamed afterwards for the bill? By doing it by accident, right? To me, kind of the most, some people approach policies as being security thing, which I think is completely valid and most likely the main thing. But to me, policies are more kind of guidance for everybody else in a company, what shouldn't be done. Like, hey, you might increase the bill by a factor of 5 because of doing something silly without you knowing that you did something silly. And without wanting to do it, right?
Right. But in the case of, let's say you did have cluster autoscaler turned on, and everything auto-scaled, legitimately auto-scaled, but yet you still didn't have the budget for that scale event. Then
in AWS you have a budget. No, the bill will come later.
The bill will come later. So it's not. So what I'm trying to get to with this is neither Kyverno nor Gatekeeper are going to keep you from spending too much money. That needs to be done on the outside. Well, they can, but just
if you say, hey, nobody's application cannot use more than 10 gigs of RAM. There you go.
That's true. But if you allow people to self-service and create their own namespaces, which then causes the cluster to auto-scale, then whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there is always a loophole, let's say.
Yes.
And yes.
So Mohammed has a question. Would you recommend using Polo? Do you know what Polo is?
I don't know. I know the game. Marco, Polo. That's not the one.
I don't think so.
I don't know what is Polo. If you can send a link or something,
Yeah. Drop a
that
link
would
in
be
there.
great. Or sometimes I know what it is, but I cannot remember. So
Yeah.
that might also help.
Well,
And I'm afraid that if I Google Polo, I will probably not get the results I'm looking for.
Yeah, I would. I don't even know what that is. I'm looking here for some options, but I don't see anything right off the top of my head. So, typo.
Even Googling Polo Kubernetes still gives me Polo shirts.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing as well. That's the reason why I sent us both up on screen. So, yeah, Mohammed, just put in there what it is you're going for. And while we're waiting on that to come in, let's talk about Lens. I can't believe you were polite to them. Well, I can believe you were polite to them, but...
Wait, I end the video, if I remember, with something like Lens it should never be used as an IDE. My main grievance with Lens is more marketing than anything else. Kind of, as a Kubernetes dashboard, I think it's probably the most polished Kubernetes dashboard I've ever seen. And that, for the people who are looking for that, right? I'm not necessarily the target user, but I recognize, hey, if you want a Kubernetes dashboard and you don't want to use K9S, this is probably the best dashboard. But then when you say this is IDE, really, if I would own a company, I would fire absolutely every single person who would use Lens or any similar tool as IDE. Meaning integrated development environment, right? Kind of, hey, let me go there and change the namespace and then delete some other namespaces and things like that.
Yes,
unless you're a tiny company. Okay, so if you're kind of like 5-10 people, yeah, go do it. I don't care.
Now, what would be interesting, and we've talked about this model before, is if really under the hood what was happening is if when you pointed and clicked, it wasn't actually doing the work, it was generating the files that were necessary and then applying those files to where it was round-tripped. That would be okay. In fact, that would be actually beyond wonderful if you think about it.
I honestly cannot understand that nobody's doing that yet. I'm looking at you, Argo CDs and Fluxes of the world. This would be a killer feature. A UI that allows you to edit things and stores the changes in Git. And another problem with Lens, and other tools are doing the same thing, other similar tools, is that they're giving you output that is the same as kubectl edit, right? Or kubectl gets -- output YAML. And the problem is that bunch of the output you get there that you want to edit should never be edited. That's a big issue because really half of a definition of a resource are the things that were injected by Kubernetes, not something that you defined yourself for the first time when you created that resource or that you should ever edit. I mean, the simplest example is status. Why would status ever be editable?
I can't think of a good reason why status would be editable.
Huh?
I can't think of a reason why you would ever edit status unless you're wanting to lie about something.
Exactly. And then if you tell me, hey, I have a tool that allows you to edit, let's say, a Kubernetes deployment, then it's your job to figure out which parts should be editable and which should not. I don't mean physically. I can change physically the status of a Kubernetes resource, but I should never do that. So Lens are similar tools. I expect them to be cleverer. If you want to change resources in a cluster at runtime, you need to be cleverer than just giving me a simple output of kubectl get -- output YAML.
Because all you're asking for at that point is trouble.
Exactly.
Okay.
Other than that, it's the most polished. It's the most polished Kubernetes dashboard that should never be called an IDE. That's my definition. I think that should be a big timer, like on our website, right? Half of the screen. The best Kubernetes dashboard that should never be an IDE.
That's a good way to look at it. Dashboards, we're all in favor of dashboards. Dashboards are a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you have
Fantastic
to...
thing.
Yeah, well, it's better than running kubectl from the command line. Even to a point, K9S can be a pain too. It's good, it's fast, but if you were to put up K9S against Lens, purely from a user experience, Lens wins hands down. From a visual experience.
Yeah, from a visual experience, exactly. I mean, I can find easily use cases to defend any of the three, kind of like terminal-based dashboard, web UI, or desktop-based dashboard, or simply kubectl. I'm fine with all three for visualization purposes, right? And then it's really a choice, whatever you prefer. I have no strong opinion there, as long as it's visualization. That would be the same thing as if we go to Grafana and we get a dashboard with metrics from Prometheus, and then there is an option in Grafana to edit those metrics, the results.
That's
would be similar, right?
It would be exactly similar. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it would be similar, and it makes zero sense because if I can change the data on the fly, that's not data then. That's like you might as well just be using Excel at that point.
Exactly.
Right? And just changing numbers. Oh, people. This is what's happening when marketing has to work with technology.
I mean, I understand. Look, if you have 100 dashboards over there, calling it IDE sounds like a very good idea from marketing perspective. Makes it different, right?
Makes it different. Yes. Okay. I was trying to figure out how it was good, but okay, it's different. So,
100 of 99 the same, and then there is one different, then that's a winner, right?
in that one's brain, it is. Yes.
But it's good. It really looks good. It's really
It does
polished.
look really
I
good.
liked it.
Yeah. And the other one, I can't remember the other company that had theirs that looked really good too. It was the team that actually did Docker Desktop.
Yeah, I remember it. But it was kind of like it was pushing you too heavily to pay for it.
Yeah.
I'm fully on board of paying for things, right? But if actually there are equally good free alternatives, then that's kind of strange.
Yep. Okay. So what is going on the rest of the week? Next week, oh, by the way, CDCon is going on. If you're interested in that part, Victor is going to be there. I'm going to be there as well, but in a little different capacity. So I'm looking at the notes to make sure I don't have anything else. Yeah.
There is also some DevOps X where I will be speaking next week. And I have no idea what it's about because I'm being mentioned in a bunch of LinkedIn something in a language I don't understand. So I'm getting constant notification about something there, the DevOps X. And that's the only English word in those notifications.
Okay, hang on. Let me pull it up here because I'll share it out here once I see it. Not Corona. Okay, here, hang on a second. Let's go back to here. So more. Lots of ads. Did we talk about Weaver last week? I don't remember if we did or not.
No, probably not.
Okay,
If you're looking at it in Twitter, I'm getting it in LinkedIn, not Twitter, as far as I remember.
Oh, LinkedIn. Okay, hang on a second.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not logged in here. Let's just go back here while I'm
it's
talking.
okay.
So, I thought you were going. I thought you said Twitter, but
Maybe. I'm old and often misbehave.
well, okay. So let me find Victor here. So, this is what happens when you try to do things live. Oh, unavailable. Oh, you're Victor Farsik. Duh.
Yeah, the last time I checked.
You're not helping me any. Okay, here. Let's go back here. So let's see. You're getting. Man, I don't even know how to figure this out. I'm just now figuring out Twitter, much less how do I figure out. I don't know how you would see it here. How they're tagging you. Activity. See activity. Activity. Let's see what happens. Okay, there's that. There's that. Yeah, it's just your post, so that doesn't help any. Okay. Well, anyway, we tried.
It's okay.
So you're going to be so you're at CDCon next week. You're also going to be at whatever this other one is that you don't know anything about.
I think it's Turkish.
Turkish? Okay.
I think.
Have you received any invites for people wanting to do an in-person this year in 2021?
No. I have one or two which I already forgot which one that I'm speaking at. That is kind of like tentative in person. Kind of depending on how it goes, right?
Right.
But that's kind of later on, already for October, November, or something like that. And KubeCon, baby. KubeCon US is supposed to be in person.
It's supposed to be in
or
person.
partly in person, or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that this week. In fact, somebody was asking me about that a couple of weeks ago. It was like, hey, are you going to KubeCon? I went, I don't know. That's before I found out that they were actually going to be live in LA.
Yeah.
Number one, LA. It's LA.
It's
I'll say it out
winter,
loud.
right?
It's November, I think, and I also saw that. And I saw Amazon. It's not winter. It's never really winter in LA.
No, precisely. It's winter in the northern hemisphere, and that's the moment to be in LA.
Oh,
Precisely because it's never winter.
Yeah, okay. So here, let me share this up again. So this is the event page at Linux Foundation. So, KubeCon, Cloud Native Con. So this is the one you're talking about.
Yeah, October
11th through 15th, yep. And they're doing a FluentCon, so here, let's just take a look at it. Pre-meeting, and then 13, 14, 15, and so LA and virtual. 16,
Yep.
What? It's only 16 weeks away? October is only 16 weeks?
Only 4 months.
Oh my goodness.
Only 1/3 of the year. Does that make you feel better if I say 1/3 of a year? That sounds like longer, right?
Not really. Holy cow. Okay, well. So anyway, saying all that, so you're planning on going to KubeCon US?
I'm desperate. I want to go to a conference. I haven't been on a conference for a long time. Yes, I want to go there. Yes.
Barcelona to LA is not a pleasant, easy flight.
You're forgetting who you're talking to, right? I traveled like 3 weeks a month.
I know.
A quarter of that going to US, so it's kind of like going downtown.
I know. I get it. Okay. Anything else? So 112, episode 112 is coming out next week with Rosemary Wang. If you don't know who Rosemary is, she's an author of a book that's getting ready to... Actually, it's already out from Manning. Not fully out. It's during their early access program. And we talked to her about it next week. Meaning, I have it loaded up, ready to edit. I haven't edited it yet. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. And I think that's pretty much it for today. I don't know if I've got any... Do you have anything else? The CDCon, I'm
No.
getting ready for CDCon next week. That's my big thing. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
virtual people. Oh, by the way, reach over here real quick. I have a turtle. Wait, there he is. There's my turtle.
There it is.
Okay. Turtle. Because we can.
That's the end of the show. We saw the throat, so goodbye.
Yeah, that's the way it feels, right? It's just like let's end on a happy note. We saw a turtle.
Yeah.
I wish it was a live turtle, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Okay, so next week I haven't even talked to you about this. Next week may be earlier because I have some meetings. I'm gonna see if I can still keep it at the same time, but we may end up having to go back 2 hours, so 2 hours earlier. Not sure.
You know what? I'm unemployed, so it can be anytime you want.
If it was the time I wanted, you would still be asleep. So, but that's okay. But just in case you're used to, now that we're back at sort of this normal 1 and 7 time, we may end up having to bump it next week. I'm going to see if I can shift the meeting. If I can't, we'll have to bump our show this next week. So let's call that good for today. Thanks for watching. Before you leave, if you're still with us here live, go and give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Ring that bell so you can be notified as we have new content. Also, the podcasts are released also to YouTube around 6 a.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. So if you don't really want to do it, it's not us talking. It's not talking head. It's just audio and a little slide. So, that's what it is. But if you want to consume your podcast there, that's fine as well. So you'll be notified if you go ahead and subscribe to the channel for that. Anything else before I sort of put myself out of frame? I think that's it. I think we're done. Okay, so thanks everybody for showing up live. If you watch the replay, thanks for watching the replay. We'll talk to you again next week.